It is often the case that those who stand in the center of the town square, shouting their own names, meet an early grave, while the man sitting in a dim corner sipping wine lives out a full, quiet life. This is a bitter paradox that the cheering crowds outside will never truly grasp. People rush into the limelight like moths to a flame, clawing for the highest seat and glittering titles, only to transform themselves into the perfect target for public vitriol and the crosshairs of history. The brighter the glow, the deeper the shadow. And it is precisely within that shadow that the truly powerful are smiling. They have no need for applause. They require absolute safety so that the flow of wealth into their coffers never falters. Human instinct is defined by a craving for recognition. The ego swells like an infected wound, driving everyone to want to be a king or a general, desperate to see their names etched into the annals of history. But history is a loud-mouthed whore. Today, she sings one person's praises, and tomorrow she tramples them to exalt another. The truly wise saw through this vicious, cruel cycle centuries ago. They realized that the throne is, in reality, nothing more than an electric chair draped in velvet. The one seated upon it believes they hold the power of life and death, but they are merely a puppet, hired to play the part of the sovereign, forced to shoulder the blame for every systemic failure. When the curtain falls, or when the audience turns feral, the king will be the first dragged to the execution grounds. So, who is hiring the actors? Who is selling the tickets? Who decides when the play must end? It is the families whose names never grace the front page of any newspaper. They have mastered a unique art of existence, one that the common man would dismiss as parasitic, but which they consider the ultimate intellectual symbiosis. Parasitism in this sense is not about clinging to a host until both perish. It is about inhabiting a host to drain its nutrients, steering that host in a preferred direction, and, most crucially, knowing exactly when to leap to a new host just before the old carcass collapses. Look at the architecture of dynasties, whether they are the feudal reigns of the past or the sprawling financial empires of today. A chillingly consistent model emerges. At the pinnacle stands an outstanding individual, a flashy CEO or a deified leader. That person works frantically, speaks frantically, and fights tooth and nail to protect their number one spot. Yet, behind them lies a tangled web of strategic shareholders, senior advisors, and powerful creditors. These figures do not hold executive titles, they hold the lifeblood. That lifeblood consists of capital, influence, and the kind of dark secrets that can topple an entire institution overnight. Their tactic is to stand behind the throne, never upon it. From that vantage point, they can whisper lethal, honeyed words into the king's ear. By standing behind the leader, they use the king Ares back as a shield against the hailstorm of stones thrown by the angry mob. And when the throne begins to wobble, they are the first to feel the tremors. While the king is preoccupied with placating the populace or intoxicated by the illusion of power, they have already quietly liquidated their assets, switched allegiances, and prepared a flawless portfolio to present to the new king awaiting his crown. This is why certain families persist for centuries, witnessing the shifting tides of history and watching countless flags rise and fall while their own fortunes only grow. They are not loyal to any flag. They are loyal only to the interests of the clan. Their mindset transcends the concepts of nations or institutions. To them, a revolution or an economic crisis is not a disaster, but an opportunity to restructure a portfolio. When blood runs in the streets, that is when they buy up assets at bargain prices. When the crowds tear down old monuments, they stand in the shadows, quietly selling hammers to the mob, and then quietly selling the stone and cement to build the new monuments. This ruthlessness is meticulously disguised under a veneer of humility and reclusion. They teach their children from birth. Never let the world know the extent of your wealth. Never argue with a fool in a public forum. Never let your name be linked to cheap scandals or legal entanglements. Their wills are not written in ink on paper. They are etched into the subconscious of the next generation through cold, hard rules of conduct. It is the art of being invisible, the ability to walk into a room where everyone respects you, yet no one dares approach you for idle chatter. The ability to influence a political pivot without ever having to show your face at the ballot box. If you look deeply into the modern business world, this rule becomes even clearer. The world's wealthiest billionaires, lauded by the press, are often merely representatives for a deeper, more entrenched capitalist class. These public figures still have to fret over hourly stock prices, answer to the media, and endure the scrutiny of their private lives. But try searching for information on the families that own centuries-old private banks or the massive trusts that manage generational wealth. The information available is an absolute zero. They hide behind dozens of layers of shell companies, remote tax havens, and the world's most elite lawyers. They do not own the company. They own the company's debt. Ultimate power does not lie in ownership, but in the control of the flow. When you hold the handle of the knife that is debt, you can force any tycoon to his knees. When a corporation collapses, the CEO may go to prison, employees may lose their livelihoods, and small shareholders may lose everything. But the priority creditors are always paid first, or they will simply devour the most valuable remains of the corpse. This is how they suck blood, both legally and technically, turning the downfall of others into a lavish feast for themselves. This parasitism is sophisticated because they know how to nurture the host. No one kills the goose that lays the golden eggs while it is still producing. They will pump in capital, facilitate connections, and support their king in his climb to the top. They allow the host to taste the intoxication of absolute power so that he becomes addicted and forgets to remain on guard. But the noose is always left just loose enough, waiting for a single slip-up to tighten. When the host grows old, loses his utility, or begins to harbor treacherous thoughts, the replacement campaign is triggered instantly. A scandal is leaked, a capital flow is abruptly severed, and the deed is done. A new, younger, more obedient king is installed, and the cycle of extraction continues. The most terrifying part is that the crowd below never sees the hand at work. The masses only know how to curse the cruel king or cheer for the new savior, unaware that both were forged in the same training ground to serve the same core interest group. The innocence of the crowd is the strongest shield these families possess. They exploit public rage to topple chess pieces that no longer follow orders, turning internal purges into revolutions painted with the colors of justice. To achieve this, emotion is a luxury they discarded long ago. There are no permanent friends and no permanent enemies, only eternal interests. They will shake hands with yesterday's foe if it yields a profit today. They arrange marriages with competitors to consolidate a monopoly. Love, marriage, and friendship are all placed on the scales of cold calculation. Marriage is not the culmination of romance, but the merger of two asset blocks and the consolidation of power. Children born into these clans are not permitted the weakness of frailty. They are taught to view people as tools, society as a chessboard, and morality as a set of rules designed to keep the poor in line. They understand that glamour is an opium that lulls reason to sleep. Therefore, they allow the nouveau riche and the vulgarly wealthy to flaunt their supercars, villas, and yachts. Such boasting attracts attention, incites jealousy, and draws the eye of tax authorities. Meanwhile, the true elite live in gated estates, drive nondescript bulletproof cars, and wear bespoke, logoless clothing crafted at exorbitant prices. Their luxury is silence. Their wealth is invisibility. This parasitic mechanism is not limited to economics or politics. It creeps into every corner of life. Even in a small company, the person who is truly safe is not the blustering boss, nor the star employee who is often targeted by envy. The safest person is the one who holds the operational secrets, the one without whom the machine would seize up, but who never demands a title. That person stands in the background, whispering into the boss's ear and manipulating office politics. When the boss is eventually fired, they remain to support the newcomer. That is the survival instinct of the cockroach and the rat, the hardiest creatures on the planet, rather than the lion or the eagle. Lions starve when they grow old and weak. Eagles perish from broken wings during a storm. But the parasite lives as long as there is life on Earth. We are often taught to live uprightly and hold our heads high, but the reality of life often strikes the naive with painful blows. The ones who endure the longest are those who know how to bow at the right moment, how to retreat into the shadows when the lights turn on, and how to remain silent while everyone else is screaming. The testament written in the darkness does not leave behind hollow moral platitudes. It leaves a map of underground paths, a list of society's pressure points, and the keys to treasures hidden beneath layers of legal shells. One generation passes to the next, not a flame of passion, but the coldness of ice. Passion burns through energy and fades quickly, while coldness preserves reason and ensures endurance. Looking at the broader picture, human history is essentially a history of changing hosts. The Roman and Mongol empires, or the great East India companies, have all vanished into thin air. But the flows of money, the principles of financial control, and the banking clans behind them remain. They have simply changed their names, their titles, and their nationalities to suit the new era. They are like water, soft yet capable of eroding boulders, formless so that no one can grasp or cut through them. When a dynasty collapses, the public sees only blood and tears. But those standing in the shadows see only an opportunity for the redistribution of assets. They do not mourn the old king. They are too busy drafting contracts with the new one. They do not fear chaos, for chaos is the ladder they use to climb higher, or, at the very least, an opportunity to tighten their grip. Ultimately, the rules of the game are cruel but simple. If you wish to endure, never become a symbol. Symbols are born to be broken. Instead, become the pedestal, the foundation, or the parasite deep within the marrow. Do not be the blazing sun that must set at every dusk. Be the night. The night encompasses all, swallows all, and most importantly, the night is never overthrown. It only waits patiently for the light to fade, so it may once again claim the world. This is how the great clans continue to write their testaments, not with ink, but with a terrifying silence amidst the noisy rush of life.